Flights planned or know someone who does, this will impact you. The FAA planning to reduce flights by 10% at 40 major airports.
When we see pressures building in these 40 markets, we just can't ignore it, and we're not going to wait for a safety problem to truly manifest itself when the early indicators are telling us we can take action today to prevent, things from deteriorating.
So think about this. The decision could cut thousands of flights per day. The restrictions will go into effect Friday morning. Now, right now, we don't know which airports will be affected, but the FAA is saying that will be announced tomorrow. This all comes, of course, after Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said earlier this week that the FAA will be forced to shut down the airspace in some areas if the shutdown continues into next week.
Airlines for America, a trade association representing major U.S. airlines, says it is working to understand details of the mandate and will try to mitigate impact to passengers and shippers. And again, as we just said, we're going to find out tomorrow if any of the airports in our area will be on this list. Let's go to Air 7 and Chris Christie over Burbank Airport. Chris, this is all happening right before the big Thanksgiving Day holiday travel rush.
Yeah, that's right, Colleen. It's unclear whether our airspace will be affected, whether Burbank, as you can see here, we're over Burbank right now, possibly one of the airports that could be affected as early as Friday. It would be logistically very complicated for airlines to reconnect all of these flights within 48 hours. Most likely, if we're talking about a 10% reduction of 45,000 flights nationwide, you're talking about 4,500 possible cancellations nationwide. Again, a lot of those flights resulting in connecting flights that must be canceled as well, and very hard to see how you would implement that within 24 hours. Again, airlines are just finding out about this now and won't even know which airports will be affected until tomorrow. So realistically, they would only have about 24 hours to implement these cancellations. Again, all of this appears to be somewhat half-baked, we're being told. They are still coming up with an actual plan that isn't even being announced till tomorrow. So again, lots of pieces to fall into place. This is taking place at some point in the next several days, as soon as possibly Friday morning. So a lot to be determined here. Of course, we'll continue to keep you posted. Reporting live from Air 7, I'm Chris Christie, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Chris, thank you. Of course, we will continue to follow this story throughout the afternoon, and we will have more on what this means for you on Eyewitness News and World News Tonight with David Muir.
If you have flights...
All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which is to say in the Paleo Hebrew, Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father, meaning He is, Bahashem, which means in the name, Yahweh Shai, which means He is our salvation. And those are the names who the world ignorantly calls God and His only begotten Son, Jesus. All right? Now, what we just saw was a clip of a warning, or now soon to be declaration of the FAA reducing 10% of their flights starting Friday, which is tomorrow, November the 7th, okay? And all I have to say is call halal Yahweh by Hashem Mashiach Yahweh Shai, all right? And with that being said, the first thing that came to my mind is I'll be home for Christmas. Not if you taking these flights you want, all right? Not if you taking these flights, which are coming from these airlines right here that we have a list of. And this is according to USA Today. It says the airports named to face flight cuts are listed below, but could change when an official list is released by the FAA. According to reports from ABC News and CBS News. So let's take a look at some of these airports and see if you or someone you know may be flying home for Christmas at one of these airports, because by the time that rolls around, you're going to have to find another way to get to where you got to go at, all right? Because they're set to cut 45,000 flights, or they said at least 4,500, all right? There's 45,000 flights that's going out daily, and they're looking to cut 10% of that, so that's 4,500. All right? Starting tomorrow. I'll be home for Christmas. Now that you're taking any flights coming out of these airports right here, it says Anchorage International, ANC, Hartfield Jackson Atlanta International, ATL, shouty. Boston Logan International, BOS. Baltimore Washington International, BWI. Charlotte Douglas International, CLT. Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International, CVG. Dallas Love, DAL. Ronald Reagan Washington National, DCA. Denver International, DEN. Dallas Fort Worth International, DFW. Detroit Metropolitan Wayne County, DTW. Newark Liberia International, EWR. Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International, FLL. How about this? Honolulu International. How many of you want to go to Hawaii to spend your holidays? Not if you're flying out of Honolulu or flying to Honolulu International. Houston Hobby, HOU. Washington Dulles International, IAD. George Bush Houston Intercontinental, IAH. Indianapolis International, IND. New York John F. Kennedy International, JFK. Las Vegas Harry Reid International, LAS. Los Angeles International, LAX. New York LaGuardia, LGA. Orlando International, MCO. Chicago Midway, MDW. Memphis International, MEN. Miami International, MIA. Minneapolis St. Paul International, MSP. Oakland International, OAK. Ontario International. How many of you going to Canada or want to go to Canada for the holidays? Not if you're flying to Ontario International. Chicago O'Hare International, ORD. Portland International, PDX. How about the brotherly city of Philadelphia International, the PHL. Phoenix Sky Harbor International, PHX. San Diego International, SAN. How about Louisville International, SDF. Seattle, anybody? Tacoma International, SEA. San Francisco International, SFO. Hey, why not Salt Lake City International, SLC. Teterboro, TEB. And last but surely not least, Tampa International, TPA. If you or anyone you know will be flying any of these airlines or from these airports starting November the 7th, 2025, expect delays and even cancellations. And once again, don't forget, I'll be home for Christmas. Call halal Yahweh Bahashima Mashiach Yahweh Shai, man. See? Ain't gonna be no Christmas if you taking any of these airports and you got to actually use reasonable, just use common sense. We going into the 7th week of this shutdown, and you think somehow that this government is going to pay all these federal workers for 7 weeks of missed pay to get things up and running. You got to be. You have to be somewhat logical enough to think they don't have the money to pay these people, man. All right? They're not going to pay these people. They're going to ride this thing out as long and as far as they can before the people start to realize they're not going to get paid. Then the airports are going to close indefinitely. I'll be home for Christmas. That's an old carol that, they play around this time of year. And, it puts you in the mood, in the spirit, Thanksgiving, Christmas, so on and so forth, spending holidays with your family, getting on the airport or getting on the airplane and flying home for Christmas. Not this Christmas, Lord willing. Abaratazah, Father will. All right? Not this Christmas or Thanksgiving or New Year's. Okay? So we're here, baby. All right? Lord is shaking things up here in Babylon the Great. All right? Let's get a few precepts now. All right, this is 2 Ezra 15 and 16. It reads, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." And once the cat's out of the bag and the people actually realize, oh, you can bet your last dollar, your bottom dollar, that all hell's about to break loose here in Babylon the Great, man. All right? They're still holding out that hope. See, we just did a lesson today on wisdom resteth in Jacob. And Jacob, speaking of the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, but more specifically, the elect of those, all right? And we have holy hope, all right? See, these people here in America, they have hope based on a system that is flawed. Isaiah, is that 36 and 6, that broken reed, all right? Their hope is in a system that's based on, this government getting things back up and operational, all right? And once they find out that it ain't getting back up and running, you see, because they got to get rid of a lot of these, what do they call it? Doge, Department of Government Efficiency. They got to get rid of a lot of these useless eaters, man. These jobs, these positions within the government. All right, this is a cleaning mechanism to drastically reduce the number of federal/government employees, man. All right, and once the end of this result is achieved, there's going to be hardly nobody left. All right, and there's going to be seditions because, as you've seen, people have families that depend on them for a paycheck. All right, and that's right where the government, this system, wants these things to head. All right, in complete and utter chaos. All right, it says, "They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able." Ain't gonna be no flights. Ain't gonna be no transportation. All right, it ain't gonna be like you see it now. All right, these cities are gonna be what? Wasted. All right, it says, "For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled." See, you're going to have certain cities that aren't going to be safe to venture off into. All right, it says, "The houses shall be destroyed and men shall be afraid." See, we're in the beginning, early stages of these prophecies coming to pass right here. All right, now it's just going to take a little bit of time. That's why we have to be patient and wait on the Lord. All right, because he's stirring things up here in Babylon the Great, man. All right, once the people, these Americans, see what's going down, oh, you can bet we finna have complete and utter civil unrest within these streets, man. All right, because they're gonna realize we ain't gonna never get paid. Okay, now they waiting on a filibuster. See, now they moving the goalposts. Now it was if the Democrats could all but come to the table and do this and do that, to now we got to try to see if we can get this filibuster passed so that we can get the government back up and running. All right? It's the same play they used back in 2020. Kicking the can down the road, man. All right? And then the Republicans blame the Democrats. The Democrats reflect the blame back onto the Republicans, and they use you, the so-called quote-unquote voter, as the ball. Okay? So it's a done deal for this place, man. All right? It's a done deal. And by the time the people realize it, it's going to be too late, man. They're going to already have gotten the necessary result or reaction they're looking for. All right? Let's go to Matthew 24 and verse 20. It says, Matthew 24 and 20, but pray ye that your flight be not in the winter. I'll be home for Christmas. Not if you relied on any one of those airports. All right. And by that time, December the 25th, man, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, man. We think about that. Hey, we get too happy thinking about that. All right. So we just take it one day at a time. All right. We're taking it one day at a time. Now it's November the 6th. The next major move is November the 7th. All right, where they're expected to cancel over 4,500 flights starting Friday morning. So we just take it one step at a time, man. All right. It says, but pray ye that your flight or your escape be not in the winter. You know the song. I ain't going to sing it no more. Neither on the Sabbath day, the day of rest, because you're supposed to be resting. If you moving and grooving, and moving on the day of Sabbath, guess what? You're not in the time of rest. All right? And that's the time we get ready to come in. You ain't going to have no rest. All right? Unless you have this truth, man. All right? If you gotta escape or take flight in the winter, the most coldest part of the year, or on a Sabbath, you know times aren't good, aren't prosperous, or aren't prosperous. Okay? And that's the times we're coming into. Abba Rathasah, Father will, okay? We just got to stay locked in this word, this truth, and continue to endure, Lord willing. We be part of that number to receive favor and salvation, okay? So 4,500 flights to be canceled at the beginning of Friday morning at those airports that we went down the list of. And it's only going to get worse as the days grow on and the weeks turn to months. All right. And then you got to remember, they already got troops, the quick reaction force team supposed to be ready to deploy out January 1st, 2026. So what do they know? All right. That the people don't know. The people just slowly getting cooked like frogs in a boiling pot. All right. And they don't even realize it. So we pray to the Lord, and we give all praises to the Lord, Yahweh, through his only begotten son, Yahweh, for allowing wisdom to depart on us, okay? That we can see these things before they happen, okay? Because why? We've been given warnings. We've been given signs, and we've taken heed to it, okay? We've taken heed to the servants, the prophets that Yahweh has set up to give us those warnings, okay? So we just give all praises, call halal, all praises, all right, to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, in the name Yahweh Shai. So this is 1 Peter chapter 5 in verse 8. This is 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. See, it says to do what? Be sober, be vigilant. See, now here it is. You going to work on a whimsical of getting paid, all right? On a good faith, as they call it. That's got to be, man, here it is. You ain't got paid in 6 weeks, but on good faith, as these so-called Christians call it, you got to go and take your government word for it, that you're going to get your back pay. Do you know what a six or seven, let's just say 6 week back pay check will look like? You're talking about thousands of dollars amongst hundreds, or dare I even say thousands of federal employees. You think they're going to cut a check like that? And they already $38 trillion in debt? Come on, man. Use common sense. They just getting as much work out of these employees as they can before they finally realize ain't going to be no more paychecks. And oh, when the faces of those people realize that, the reactions are going to match. They're going to see. Hey, that's why these cabinet members of Donald J. Trump are now taking refuge and hiding on military bases. All right. That's why Trump paid the military. See, Trump figured out a way how to get the military paid, man. They keep them happy because he know they're going to be the ones that have to protect them for a time being. All right. Till those National Guards get put into place. See? So it says, be sober, be vigilant. Why? Because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. All right. And hey, he's doing a great job, man. All right. Of misleading these employees, these federal employees, into believing that they're going to get their back pay and that the government will open reasonably, in a timely fashion. All right. We going into the 7th week next Monday. All right. So, hey, this is what we want. This is where we at. This is what the Lord is showing us. Okay. Just continue to stay patient and continue to stay in the faith and endure. So 1 Peter 5:8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. All right. So with that being said, pray someone was edified through this lesson. And until the next time, if it be the Lord's will, stay strong, stay in the faith. We're almost home. Shalom. Peace.